Alright, what's good, you lot? As you can see in the title, I've decided to do a challenge video. And yes, I might be slightly taking ideas from Theme Park Wirral, but he's fine with it, so we move. So I decided to try and make what I thought would be the best coaster in the world, in terms of layout and forces, etc. So I thought of many different manufacturers, and RMC kind of fits the bill. That's mainly because of how flexible their track is, and it lets me go a bit more wild with the forces and elements and stuff like that. So, intro aside, let's actually crack on with this coaster then. I'm going to put the footage into a time lapse, just so that the video isn't about 7 hours long, and then I'll just explain what I'm doing as it's running. So, my main draw for the actual lift hill style was lightning rod. So instead of using an actual chain lift, I'd use an LSM launch. Even though they aren't actually very reliable with RMC, they do allow for some pretty interesting ways to actually start your layout. Because instead of actually going off of a chain lift, which kind of drags the speed down and makes you need like a really long drop to actually get the speed that you need, you can just fly right over a lift hill crest and then just go into some really interesting element right off the bat. So as you can see here, I've got the lift hill to height and I've started the drop. It's only going to be a short drop because I want to get right into the first element, which is going to be a weird outer banked wave turn roll kind of thing. Kind of similar to the one that you see on Tiger after its first launch, but instead of going straight into it, you kind of do a left turn and then go into the wave, just so you can get a bit of like airtime and then lateral airtime on the actual wave itself. Right, so I'm doing the roll here, and the reason why I'm building out of 2 meter pieces and not 4 meter pieces is I initially designed the layout in FVD and then converted it into No Limits 2, and then obviously now I'm converting it into PlanCo. I would have made this using hand building, but RMC shaping I can't really get down with hand building because I just haven't really done it in ages. And I've got myself like a little method that I do in FVD to properly get the shaping down. Also, if you do want to actually see me record what I do in FVD for these coasters, then just leave a comment down below and I'll try to remember to record. I could probably make a separate video before, for example, a cinematic video of that coaster. So if you are actually interested in that, then again, just leave a comment down below and I'll try to make that happen. Right, waffling aside, after the weird like wave roll kind of thing, I decided to throw a stall in, but instead of just doing a regular old boring 0G stall, I remember I saw a clip of a 0G stall that someone in the CoasterBot server made, but instead of just being like a regular arc kind of stall, it had a like an airtime hill in the middle. So I basically stole that idea and put it into this layout. It was a pain in the ass to actually get done in FVD because the first element was done with force graphs, but this I had to do with geometric just to get it done properly. So the switch was a bit annoying, but I managed to get it done, and I don't think it turned out too bad in the end. Right, so after the airtime stall, I thought I'd go back to lightning rod and basically take the quad dam that's on that and slightly alter it. So the first hill is outer banked, and then the second, third and fourth are all basically straight lines, but may have corners and stuff go into them. Right, so I've cut to the second to last hill on the quad down, and if you've not guessed already, this thing is going to be a terrain coaster, like Lightning Rod. So I'm going to be hugging the terrain on these final hills, and then go to the right hand side of the lift hill. Then the station itself is going to be in a valley, with probably like a 720 roll going over station itself, just as like a big focus point. The 720 roll itself, I'm probably going to do some weird fake spine using the arrow track instead of using the autogen wooden support, because with the amount of times that it rotates and how fast it rotates, the support generator will just won't work. And obviously with all the terrain integration, it'll just make it even worse. So with this fake spine, using the arrow track, I can then just use regular steel coaster supports. So it'll just look super clean and there won't be a mess of wooden supports everywhere. Right, so the footage of me building the rest of the 720 roll decided to corrupt itself. So anyway, now I think I'm probably going to send the coaster into a really aggressive, like lateral filled wave wall, wave turn kind of thing. Not so intense in terms of regular airtime, but massively intense in kind of lateral airtime. So, wave wall done. I'm gonna probably send it into like an S-bend and then into another wave wall, but instead of just being a regular wave wall, it's a wave turn kind of similar to the one that I did on Iron Carnibou for the PlanCo Madness challenge, where it's a wave turn but kind of rolls out of it halfway through, which creates a really quite weird sense of like force changing. You kind of get that on Nemesis after the first helix, and then you go straight into the 0G roll, kind of at the bottom of the helix, and then at the start of the 0G roll, you get a really aggressive change of force going from positive to basically 0G, which can really send your head and make you feel quite sick. I know a lot of people tend to like grey out or black out there, which I imagine is potentially from the like rapid change of force in such a short amount of time. So I feel like that kind of feeling, but instead of going from positive to basically 0G, going from really aggressive lateral airtime into like a really high roll rate downwards roll, kind of similar to Tiger's first element and Gwazi's death roll. I feel like that'd be a really quite cool element to have. Anyways, while I was waffling, I've started on a really big and aggressive like airtime hill, kind of similar to one on Zadra after the big wave turn over the station, I think it is. So that's going to be like the top of the airtime hill is going to be like terrain hugging, and then kind of drop you off a cliff, and then kind of into a like an archway made out of terrain. The terrain work I'll do afterwards. So then I can form a terrain around the coaster instead of forming a coaster around the terrain, which I think is harder to do. But anyways, that's going to be done afterwards. But back to the topic on who I'm borrowing content off. Theme Park Wirral actually gave me the idea of going into like a barrel roll into the brake run. So yeah, after this airtime hill, I'm going to go into like a right hand sweeping turn. And then at the top of it, I'm going to start rolling out and then go into the barrel roll, kind of inclined, well not inclined, but downwards inclined, I guess, and then go into like a pretty steep brake run. I did think about doing a double barrel roll similar to the ones on Outlaw Run at Silverdella City, but I didn't have enough space with the like track path that I'm going with at the moment. And I didn't really want to extend the layout out too far from like the lift hill and like where the rest of the layout is right now, because I feel like a layout which is long and meandering is a lot worse than a layout which is shorter, more compact, and goes into the brake run with more speed. Because I feel like even if you have a shorter layout, but every single element you make, you basically cram in like some of the best elements in the world, or just like really intense sections, it's much better than having a really long layout, and then you'll more than likely have some dead zones where there'll just be nothing. And also with a shorter layout, it's much easier to conserve your speed and like keep the momentum going throughout the whole layout right until the end of the brake run. Whereas with a longer layout, you lose speed much easier, and the end of a ride is just boring. Right, so as you can see, we're basically done with making the layout itself. So I'm going to cut the time-lapse here and do the scenery work off camera, because it's just a boring, monotonous job. And then I'll cut back to when it's all done and kind of show you around what I've done with the layout more in depth. Right, so as you can see, I've done just some basic scenery work. I didn't want to go too hard on the scenery, just because it'd take me forever, and I want to get this video out soonish. So the station, I've done like a No Limits 2 style station, because it was fairly easy to do and took a little time. But so right out of the station, you go straight into the launch lift hill, and then at the top, you go into the kind of like turn into the tiger roll kind of thing. And then after that, you go straight into the airtime stall, which turns out to be a bit more aggressive than I initially wanted it to, but hey, we move. Then after that, you start to go down into the quad down, which starts off with like an outer banked airtime hill, and then it's just got 3 normal straight line hills, just with a turn in the middle. And then we get to the 720 roll, and here's the fake spine that I was talking about. This took me forever to actually do, but I don't think it turned out too badly. Then after that, you've got the 2 wave walls, one being here and then the second one being here. But then with this second one, you roll out of it with a like really high roll rate downwards roll, which, like I said in the time-lapse, actually does give a real good selection of forces. Then after that, you've got a really, really aggressive terrain-hugging airtime hill, which again goes off a cliff into the archway. The archway I kind of rushed with the terrain, hence why it doesn't look very good. But hey, I wanted to get this video out pretty quick, so... And then for the final element, we go into like the upward sweeping turn, and then into the barrel roll kind of drop into the brake run. It does go into the brake run really quite quick, so the brakes are quite intense. But as I said, I'd rather have a shorter and more exciting layout than just something which is long, meandering and boring. But yeah, that's the whole layout. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you want to see any more challenges, just let me know of something that you would want to see in the future. So yeah, just give me ideas of different challenges that you'd want to see, and post them down in the comments. But anyway, I'm going to stop the recording and voice over here, and send you into some cinematics and POV. So yeah, again, if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. And if you've got any more challenges that you want to see, just comment them down below. Right guys, much love, and I'll see you lot in a bit.